Attention all Rocky Mountain Rescue Dog teams. You are currently searching for a white male, 40 years old. He is approximately 165 pounds. Team 1 will be working north of the point last seen. Team 2 will be working to the southwest, inside of the valley. Team 3 will work the ridgetop, icy clear.
Jan Hawley and her Golden Retriever Scout find lost people in the mountains and deserts of the Intermountain West.
This is his last known position.
We're looking for approximately a 35-year-old man.
What you're seeing is a mock search, a training exercise that volunteer search and rescue workers from Rocky Mountain Rescue Dogs, like Jan, do 100 times before they go out on a real search. Real searches are just that, real. They involve real people who've experienced radical change in their environment, whose meanings have been radically disrupted. Their mental maps have become mental traps. They are overwhelmed with equivocality. They are lost. Hi, my name is Scott Hammond. I'm a professor, a consultant, and a researcher, and also a volunteer search and rescue worker. And this is my Golden Retriever search dog, Dusty. A few years ago, when I began studying lost person behavior in the wilderness, I noticed a dramatic parallel between how people behave when they're lost in the woods and how people behave when they're experiencing dramatic change in organizations. Maybe you've experienced dramatic changes in the environment, a change in the weather or the economy. Maybe you've been on the wrong path in the woods or a wrong career path. Maybe you've been hurt, impaired, or victimized somehow, and the things that once worked don't work anymore. If you've done that, you've been lost. The kind of lost I'm talking about is not the kind of lost you get when you just don't know where to go. It's the kind of lost you get when you have so many possibilities of where to go, when you don't know which one is right and which one is best. When you have so much information and so much data, you are overwhelmed with equivocality. Consider the case of 58-year-old Carol Weatherton of Panacea, Florida, and her 40-year-old daughter Kim. They set off from this trailhead in Utah's High Uintas for a short 3-mile hike in October of 2007. Based on the notes that were left in the car, it's assumed that the two knew that a winter storm was fast approaching. But they were in the warm before the storm. It was a lovely day, and so they left their gear in the car and headed up this trail. When the mother and daughter pair got to the summit here, they're almost at timberline and the trail is pretty clear. But coming back in a snowstorm, the trail forks. One goes deeper into the wilderness, the other goes back to the car. They took the one that leads into the wilderness. Equivocality is created when there's too much information and multiple plausible meanings. What does the storm mean? Will it blow over? Is this the first big freeze of winter? We can't find the car. How will we stay warm? Where should we walk or wait for help? Where will help come from? Do people know that we're lost? The flood of emotions, fear, guilt, anger, confusion, all cloud the questions. My friend Cindy Kinsman of Rocky Mountain Rescue Dogs found their remains in the spring.
And when you're out on a search and you think of, what is it am I going to see that's going to lead me to them? I had no idea what I was going to find. I have found a piece of emergency blanket with a rock sitting on top of it like it had been placed there. And as I continued to walk and looking down, I saw another piece. And yet another piece. When I looked up, there was the site in which the ladies were.
You don't have to be lost in a winter storm to experience the same feelings of being overwhelmed by equivocality. You can be at work, in your family, in your career, in your life. The truth is that we've all been lost, whether in wilderness or in life, struggling with too much information, too much data, and not enough meaning. Psychologists tell us that when people get lost, they generally fall into one or more of the following mental traps. First, lost people perceive fewer options. They just don't see what's possible. Second, lost people are driven by their history, so they look at what's worked in the past and hope it will work in the future. Third, lost people often operate in default. They just do what's worked before. Fourth, lost people feel shame, an especially toxic form of fear that can erode confidence and amplify negative consequences. Fifth, if they're driven by shame, most people become less visible, not more visible, because they often try to fly under the radar and not call attention to themselves. Sixth, lost people sometimes communicate less because they want to reduce their visibility. Seventh, some lost people have a movement bias. Random action is better than nothing. But being lost doesn't always have a tragic ending. Sue and Ray Baird live in Greencastle, Pennsylvania. Sue is a retired journalist and Ray is a retired bus driver. 4 years ago, the two spent 4 days in the remote desert between Utah and Arizona. They were lost.
We might have been a little worried, but we always were certain that we were going to make it to our destination until we came to the fork in the road where the GPS and Microsoft Maps and Trips said turn left, and a sign said road washed out, no longer passable. And that's where we made the mistake that could have taken our lives, when we turned right instead of turning around.
Ray and Sue did two things wrong. They assumed the roads would be passable, and they assumed that the search would begin immediately after they realized that they were lost. But they did everything else right.
We did everything wrong to get there, but we did everything right after we got there.
Well, the nice thing about it is we could discuss things that happened to us in the past, and we learned a lot about each other there. And the beauty of it was that we both thought positively. We didn't keep looking back saying, you did this, or you should have done that, or, you know, we shared responsibility and left it go at that.
Yeah, there was no blame. We're both very optimistic people. And I remember saying to him when we were on the very first road, you know, there's some people that would probably say we're crazy to be doing this. We learned the last people that went where we went got carried out in body bags. And it could have so easily have happened to us.
So after making two critical mistakes, what did Ray and Sue do that was absolutely right? Well, the first thing they did was they discarded old mental traps that were keeping them in their car. And the second thing they did, and this is the most important, is they hung on to hope. No one survives without hope.